I'm Pastor Matthew Girdle, and I'll be preaching my first sermon here at Risen Savior Lutheran Church this Sunday. I remember when I first got to seminary, I was so excited to learn how to preach a good sermon. And I would sit through chapel every day listening to preachers who were invited from all over to come and preach in our chapel. And I'll admit, there were some sermons that I did not understand. They went over my head, but I thought, these are good pastors. They must know something that I don't if I don't understand their sermons. And then later, through my schoolwork, they began to teach us how to preach a good sermon. And I soon began to realize that as I went back to chapel, what a good sermon really was. And that began several years of seminary, of listening to sermons, thinking about what it meant to preach a good sermon. It wasn't until the last few weeks of seminary that I finally realized that maybe all of these pastors who would come to the seminary to preach, that maybe they weren't coming to try and impress us future pastors with their great speaking or clever words and creative ideas. Maybe they were simply trying to teach us and to tell us about who God is and what He's done for us. So I'll admit that for this coming Sunday, I've put a little extra work into this sermon. But I hope that I can impress you not with my own abilities, but with who our God is and what He has done for us and continues to do in our lives. If you're preparing for this Sunday, the sermon will be on the book of Lamentations, our Old Testament reading. It's a story that's so terrible you think we shouldn't be able to speak about it in church, and yet it's still part of our God's story. The verses that we'll be reading are a few of the only positive verses that are in this book, a few of the only good news verses that you can find. Because even when the story of our life, the story of our world, or the story you're living in right now is so terrible you can't think to speak about it in church, the one thing we can hold on to is God's faithfulness and His mercies, which are new every morning. I hope to see you in church this Sunday.